officially call this meeting to order at approximately 3 minutes past 7. Officially call this meeting of the Open Space and Recreation Committee to order. And we'll begin with a roll call. Travis Mast.
I'm here.
Stephen Crowley.
Here.
Elizabeth Coveney.
Present.
And David Robbins is present. Currently absent are Shannon and Craig and Trevor. So we don't have much on the agenda tonight. The first agenda item is the annual report. When we reviewed the annual report at our January meeting, I noted that we had not yet received all of the action item status updates. I now have received all but one action item status update. And the revised draft annual report I circulated to you guys for this meeting reflects that. I added a little piece in that to show the changes in action item status from year to year. So you can kind of read that and get a bit of a sense that we actually are making some progress. The one action item for which I don't yet have a report is the Economic Development Commission. They discussed it and back at a January meeting weren't quite sure what to report because most of them are really new, and the previous 2 years John Allen had done the report for them, so they were kind of unfamiliar with that. They were going to meet this week. In fact, I'm told that they were going to meet this evening, at which point they would have been able to discuss it a little bit more, but turns out they were unable to meet. So I'm told they're not going to be meeting till March. So we won't have an official report from them on their one action item until it's way too late to submit our annual report. So the annual report reflects basically a no action on their action item, which is similar to what it's been the last couple of years. So I really can't hold off on submitting the annual report any longer, although once I get their status, I'll include their status in the actual the detailed action item status report that I will be having posted to this committee's webpage. But for now, the annual report is, as far as I can tell, it's ready to be submitted, and unless any of you guys have any suggestions for additional edits or changes to it.
I didn't have anything, Dave. This is Stephen.
Nothing from me. I thought it looked
Okay.
good.
Yeah.
So if there's nothing further, then I suppose a motion would be in order to approve the draft annual report for submission to the town administrator's office.
Stephen will make a motion to approve the draft report of the Open Space and Recreation Committee for 2024.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Travis?
Yes.
Elizabeth?
Yes.
Stephen?
Yes.
And Dave votes yes. Motion carried unanimously. I will get that sent off to the TA's office tomorrow. And the next item on the agenda is the Open Space Article 97 inventory updates. Since our last meeting, I've actually, I made a slight update to the Open Space and Article 97 inventory. The town is now the proud owner of the two Robinson parcels abutting Silver Lake that we voted last year to acquire. So that transaction has been completed. So I thought I'd update the inventory to include that. And I mentioned at the last meeting that the Article 97 inventory was being reviewed by town council. What I circulated for the meeting tonight is the result. Town council had basically said, added a section on a relatively new law that had been passed since the last time I wrote up the explanation of Article 97. So I with that, I think that inventory and with the addition of those two Silver Lake parcels, the Article 97 inventory is up to date. Stephen did suggest that maybe a a uh, a year 1014 was probably not accurate. And
That was the only, I was grinning to myself when I saw it, like, okay, that's all I can contribute to any change on that was that.
now, I know that I intended to type 2014. Every so often, what I intend to type and what actually shows up is not quite the same. So I appreciate you pointing that out. Otherwise, that'd be kind of an embarrassing mistake.
Yeah.
So that doesn't, that doesn't require any committee action. That's more for committee's information. And now that town council has reviewed that, I'll be having the open space inventory and the Article 97, those two updated documents posted also on the website on our page. And unless you have anything else, any questions or comments about those two inventory documents?
Just a comment, Dave. I personally want to thank you for all the work that you put into creating and maintaining those two documents. That is just
It's not my
it's a
pleasure.
monumental task. I'm not sure I'd have any opportunity to achieve the same. You've
Yeah.
just you've outdone yourself.
Yeah, well, I did most of the work that went into that I did back in 2020 when I was preparing the open space inventory for inclusion in the open space and rec plan, which we were just wrapping up at that point.
Mhm.
Um, the previous the previous inventory had been done back in 2007, and in the process of updating that, I thought I'd try to I really wanted to do as much research as I could to just to be sure that we've got all the open space parcels identified and properly categorized. So that involved reviewing town meeting votes, town
Mhm.
meeting minutes going back many years, registry of deeds documents. That was a lot of work. But since then, I've been I would typically sit down once a year, look at you know, any town meeting votes and registry of deeds activity that's taken place since the last time I looked. So it's been relatively easy to keep it up to date.
Yeah, great.
And
You do a fantastic job.
but yeah, I'm glad yeah, I appreciate your recognition of that. And it's kind of a thankless job because if it doesn't make most people don't wouldn't pay attention to that anyway. It's a topic that's only of interest to relatively few of us in town.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, but I'm
You-
keeping, one of my motivations for keeping it up to date is so that the next open space and recreation plan, no one has to start from scratch to build that
Right.
inventory.
Yeah. And thank you for that, Dave.
And I have no idea who's going to be involved in doing the next open space and rec plan, but I think it's due for an update within a couple, 2 or 3 years. So Shannon is joining us.
Hello. Sorry I'm
Good
late.
evening, Shannon. Not a problem. I will admit that it's unusual for us to have a Zoom only meeting for this committee.
That's okay. I learned my lesson. I need to read the instructions more carefully.
Oh, heavens.
I've done it
If there's-
myself, Shannon. I've
if-
shown
if-
up at a number of meetings where we're over Zoom only.
Yeah.
If there's one thing, you read the instructions only as a last resort.
Yeah. Oh man.
Anyway, just for your yeah, and Shannon to do the minutes for this, you can always review the video for the first part of it. We haven't done much.
Okay.
We voted to approve the annual report. We've just been talking about the open space in Article 97 inventory, and unless you had any comments on either of those topics, Shannon.
No.
Okay, so we'll move into our next agenda item, the topic of protection of unprotected open space. For that, I reached out to Fiona to see if she had any updates for us. And following our last meeting, she's continuing to work on the 227 Milford Road parcel. She's continuing to look through the archives to see if there's any relevant information that we don't already know.
Yep.
Beyond that, that's not on the top of her priority list. And I think I've repeatedly told her that it's really, it's not something that we consider super urgent. It's, we'll get it done when we get it done. So other than that, that's still a work in progress. Fiona's going to be, continuing to work on it as she has time. The other question for us is, are there any other parcels of land that we would like to begin pursuing for protection status? I recall that at the January meeting, Fiona reported to us a couple of parcels that the Conservation Commission has expressed an interest in protecting. But any thoughts on should we start looking at others?
I know Leah's mentioned that they have a list that they've had for quite a while that they're interested in pursuing. I haven't seen it though, but I just know that there is a list
Yeah, at the
of
last
interest to the Concom.
Yeah, at the last meeting, Fiona passed on. She had identified 4 parcels that she said was she got those from Leah.
Okay, great.
One was 46 Adams Road, which we've already placed under Concom control. We did that by town meeting vote several years ago. There's parcels 1 and 2 side Putnam Lane. There's 60 Ferry Street and 268 Upton Street rear. So those are the 4 that Fiona had identified for us. The Putnam Lane parcels, they abut the Hennessy land. They're already categorized as Article 97 land because they were deeded to the town as open space, but they've not been placed under Concom control, which might be desirable. 60 Ferry Street, which abuts the Maplevale Estates Conservation Area. The town acquired that by tax title a couple of years ago, but it has not yet been given any kind of protection status. Similarly, 268 Upton Street rear, which abuts the Taft Parker Prescott land also. We acquired that by tax title about 20 years ago, according to my notes. But again, it does not currently have any protection status, or it is not currently protected. So would the committee recommend that we ask Fiona to begin and or Fiona and Leah working together to follow up specifically on those parcels to place them under Concom control? I think following up
I
on
think
those.
that's a start, but I would be curious, what is the criteria? So does it have to abut the conservation land today? Because I'm just not familiar with all the properties. So if those are the ones that have been recommended, then yes, I think she should begin to pursue those. But is there a criteria that's established so that we could make a more educated recommendation?
Not really. I mean, you'll recall that we did the parcel prioritization project, completed that last year. The Ferry Street parcel came up with a parcel prioritization score of 11, which is sort of in the middle. The Upton Street parcel had a priority score of 13, which is kind of similarly situated. So they're not super high on the prioritization list. However, I think Leah's interest in that or conservation's interest in it is simply because they do abut existing conservation land. So I think just in terms of overall of criteria for considering whether to follow up on this, it's really kind of flexible. It's like the parcel prioritization score is one factor that we would consider. Specifically, The idea that these already they abut existing conservation land, making them kind of a logical extension of conservation land makes a lot of sense. And it's, in the case of land that the town already owns, it's simply a matter of placing them under Concom control. And if nothing else, we could just, sort of punt further consideration of parcels off to our next meeting. So we don't, there's nothing we really need to decide tonight. But if it's something that we all think is worth pursuing without really further thought, then maybe we want to do that or recommend that. I don't want to, and again, that's putting more work on staff, and I don't want to burden the staff overly much. But well, any other thoughts?
Dave, why wouldn't we do that? Why wouldn't we want to authorize that?
I think I can't think of a reason that the only reason, the only reason I would be even at the least bit reluctant is simply to that it puts more work on our staff. But it's something that I think is clearly desirable to be done sooner or later. And if right now we think it's definitely worth pursuing, then yeah, let's add that to the list of things that staff can do for us. And again, whenever they get around to it, it's by and large these parcels are all, it, for all practical purposes, they probably are effectively conservation land, just because nothing else is being done with them. But
It's just
yeah,
making it official by making it official. Yeah. I don't see any reason. I don't personally. I'm not the staff doing the work, so it's a logical step to move forward with this.
yeah,
It feels like it's our job to do that, and all we're asking is to kind of codify the work's been done. They've identified the parcel, so it's more about acknowledging them. And there's no, we might as well get it queue to have that done. If there's no urgency, then we should still get it on the docket. That's my opinion.
yeah. So if we're all comfortable saying yes, we think these parcels should be basically handed over to the Conservation Commission to formally make them, officially conservation land. I'd say that we just go ahead and I'll communicate that to Fiona that we're interested in that we think these lands all ought to become official conservation land. And like I said, since the town already owns them, it's just a matter of basically it's a matter of town meeting voting to place them under Concom control.
So do you need a motion for that, or can we just agree?
I think the chair here might recognize a motion that this committee recommends that these parcels be placed under Concom control. In fact, I think maybe I heard Elizabeth make that motion.
I did. So moved. Yes.
Second.
Okay,
All
moved
right,
and seconded. Moved and seconded. Any discussion of the motion? Hearing none. Travis,
Yes.
Stephen,
Yes.
Shannon,
Yes.
Elizabeth,
Yes.
and Dave votes yes. Motion carried unanimously. I will forward that information on to Fiona tomorrow. And anything else that any of you want to discuss with respect to this ongoing consideration of protection for unprotected open space? I mean, there's obviously a lot more that we can look at over time, but I think we started out in this saying, well, let's pick the 27 Milford Road parcels, and get the work going on those. And now we've got a few more that we're comfortable saying go ahead with, and we can continue to review the others over time. But for now, we good with this?
Yeah, I was gonna say there's definitely a few other parcels that I feel might be a little bit more like time critical, like just looking at the GIS. the one at 268 Upton Street, I mean, that's a pond in wetlands, so I don't think it's in any danger of being like developed, or it would never be a suitable spot for like, say, a school or anything like that because it's just water. But I do agree that it should be protected. That's very important. But like I would say, I look forward to, getting to some of the other ones, like some of the more wooded lots that could actually be used for something.
Yep.
For
So let's,
example, just as an example, 7 Institute Road, it's about 20 acres of forest owned by the town with, I think on the spreadsheet it says limited or uncertain protection.
yes. Yes, that would be a good one to look at. That has been called a town forest, an Institute Road Forest or something like that. But that's one of the things I looked at back when I was first putting this inventory together. That and one other, which I don't remember off the top of my head, they were, at least in some documents, they were identified as town forests, but I could find no record of them having been placed under control of the forest committee or any other, anything else uh, that would give them formal protection.
Okay.
So that, that I think that's a good example of something where you know, that we probably want to look at. But yeah, we don't, and I guess let's continue to look at other parcels and identify other candidates. What's kind of our game plan is to go through our list of all the parcels that conceivably that the town owns that are not currently protected, and which one of those ought to be protected. We've got some easy ones here right now, but yeah, there's certainly more we can do.
Or, yeah, and not just protected, but I mean, to Shannon's point, what are the most vulnerable? If you think about Institute Road, that is vulnerable if we don't protect it. Just given the growth and development there, that one I would put as something we should look at sooner.
Yep. Okay, good. Anything else on this topic for now? Yeah, I'll keep this on our agenda for future meetings so that we can continue to look at parcels and identify the next ones that we think ought to be given attention.
Have any other sorry, Dave, is any other committees come to us with a request besides Concom?
Not that I'm aware of. Well, yeah, no one else has come to us. I mean, at the last meeting, Fiona passing on the Concom, that short ComCon list of parcels. It's really the first I've heard of any other committee making some suggestions for land that deserves protection.
Is it that they don't know who to communicate that need to, or they just there's no need?
Yeah, I suspect that if any other town board or committee would have thoughts about land that ought to be protected, it would be Concom. And I'm not sure about any others that, possibly the Trails Committee might think of some, interesting trail land that maybe ought to be protected, but they're I'm not sure where they're at now, but it's a relatively new committee, and I'm not sure how much work they've done in trying to think about future trail needs.
Okay.
Other than that, I don't know of any other committee that well, maybe Recreation has some ideas, but I don't know. Somebody from Recreation might have some ideas.
We need a recreation building.
Yeah.
I did send the list and the maps to the land trust to get their input on it. I mean, I know they have their own priorities but I did send it to them because I am their representative, so.
Right, right, that's right, yeah, the land trust would be another group that, yeah, I might expect to have some ideas along these lines, but again, so, yeah, and, yeah, and you've Shannon, you've forwarded the information to the trust. So if anybody in the trust has any thoughts, I'm assuming they'll probably report back through you.
Yes, it should be on the, an upcoming agenda if anyone has any comments on it.
Yep. And in any case, this is kind of an open-ended but sort of long-term project for us because, you know, some of these things will be more obvious than others, and who knows what else might come up. Okay. If we're done with that, then the last agenda item is to review the minutes of the January meeting, which Shannon circulated it to us earlier today. I looked over the minutes. I didn't see anything that I thought needed changing. But a motion to approve the minutes would be in order.
Now, Dave, I wasn't at the last meeting. I shouldn't vote on the minutes?
It's up to you. There's, as far as I know, there's no rule saying that just because you weren't at the meeting, doesn't mean you can't
Okay.
vote on
All
the
right.
minutes.
All right.
But
I
some,
reviewed them. Sorry.
some people choose to abstain from voting on the minutes if they weren't at the meeting, but not everybody does that. It's really up to you.
I reviewed the minutes. They looked fine.
I'll move to approve the minutes from January 15th, 2025.
Second,
Moved and seconded that minutes be approved as drafted. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Travis,
Yes.
Stephen,
Yes.
Shannon,
Yes,
Elizabeth,
yes,
and Dave votes yes. Motion carried unanimously. The minutes are approved. With that, I believe we've reached the end of our agenda, which means a motion to adjourn would be in order.
Motion.
motion to adjourn.
Second that.
Moved and seconded that this meeting be adjourned. Travis,
Yes.
Stephen,
Yes.
Shannon,
Yes.
Elizabeth,
yep.
and Dave votes aye. Motion carried unanimously. We are adjourned.